The next thing I wanted to highlight is another way of getting feeds in our Matrix platform, and that's dynamic share. And dynamic share is a great tool to use. And I'll give you an example of how this would be great to use for your organization. Let's say that you're an affiliate, and let's say that you're an ABC affiliate, and you want to get a feed from maybe your competitor across town, and they are not in your inventory, they're not in your group, but and maybe you don't have a pool in your network or in your market. You can do what's called dynamic share. And what we have here is, I'll come over here. We'll come to the icon on the far left. This is the dynamic share icon. And basically what I'll do here is click on this. So I'm logged in as my colleague, Luis, right now. And think of dynamic share as a push-pull type way of moving content, or a request or send type thing. So I can go and request a feed from an individual or an affiliate, or I can push a feed to them. So for example, in this demonstration, we're going to come in here and let's go ahead and zoom in here. And I'm going to request a feed. Once again, I'm logged in as Luis. I'll come up here to the upper right-hand corner and I will click on request a feed. What it's going to do is open up what we call the global directory. And the global directory are affiliate groups or stations or individuals that have opted in to say, hey, yes, I want to be able to share my encoders or my content within the global directory if there's a request made. So for example, I'll come up here to the top here and do a search. And I'm going to search for myself. I'm going to send a request to myself here. And I'm going to say, okay, Ed Lozano, I need to grab a feed from you. And I'm going to come in here, and if I need to send email addresses for contact information or to alert, I can do that. Once again, I can have this feed there until it's manually ejected, or I can customize a time for this to be ejected as well. What I'm going to do is then come down here to the bottom and I'll hit OK. What's happening now is there's a request that's going over to myself, and let me get a feed going here so we can actually share this. So I'm now going to get notified on my end if I had the email system set up. But what I'll do is let me come back over here and let's log in as myself here. And on the left-hand side where the dynamic share icon is, we're going to have a notification now that there is a request been made for a feed. So right over here on the left, on the dynamic share icon, I have a notification. I can click on that. And it looks like we've got a couple requests here. So the first one that we've got is from right here in the middle. This is actually, this is another colleague that's requested. Right here in the bottom middle. This is a request from Luis. We can zoom in a little bit here. And I can either approve or reject this. Well, I'm going to, of course, approve anything that Luis asked for. So we're going to go ahead and hit approve. And now it's going to bring up a dialog box. Now, the great thing about dynamic share is that you still have control of your content in the way of, when the field unit comes into your MMH server, your MMH server basically turns into a reflector or an encoder of sorts. So the content will come from site, from the field unit to your MMH server, and then we then share that back out to the point-to-point or the one-to-many distribution. So for example, I've got a feed coming in. I've got a test clip coming in on my MMH1. It's telling me right here that my receive one is currently in use. So let's go ahead and share that content. I'm going to tell it OK. Now on Luis's side, he will now get a message saying that the feed's been approved. And we talked earlier about the different columns. This feed will now appear in his feeds column. So as we load up here, we've got right here the dynamic share icon. It's this little green circle that will appear. And there is information. It'll tell you that this is coming from Ed Lozano, and it's actually being received by my RX1 and then being rebroadcasted. We can, of course, see the bandwidth here. And if there's any metadata, it would be listed in here. And just like all of our matrix system, we can click right here in the lower right-hand corner, and we can click on the grab icon here, and we can now then select a channel locally on our MMH server where we want that content to go. Very useful, once again, for doing ad hoc feeds, maybe it's occasional use, maybe it's a little bit longer, maybe you need a feed there for 24 hours. The dynamic share is active until one party ejects the feed or hits the, in this case, it's a little icon of a trash can and stops the feed or stops the share. Luis can either stop it on his end, or I can say, we're done feeding Luis. I'll manually eject it from here, or we can put a time limit on it. Did I see a question? I think I apologize. Can dynamic share be set to expire so I don't forget to stop sharing? Yes, it can. Once again, we can come into dynamic share and we can say, and actually even in the feed, if you're the recipient of the feed, I can come over here and I usually use it or do it till it's manually ejected. But you can come over here to custom and then select a time that and a date that you want that. So maybe you've got a feed for 72 hours. You can future date that on the calendar here and put that time in there. Luis, what am I missing here? Luis is our master of all this, so I think this tool and Matrix as a product as a whole, so very useful for all our clients, day in and day out.
Yeah, I think I guess the other way of doing things is just simply doing the drag and drop, not necessarily clicking on the grab feed. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple ways that you can do that. But yeah, you're pretty much spot on that information you have.